Welcome to Rudy's Rasslin Report, where we talk about all things pro wrestling with your host, Jason Rudy.
Hey dude, I gotta tell you, you better listen to Rudy's Wrestling Report. If you like pro wrestling like I do, you know you're gonna like it. You better listen to Jason Rudy. He's the man and you should listen. Alright, here's Jason.
Hey, welcome. This is Jason Rudy, founder of Desperate Visions Productions and Mondo Visions Photography. This is Rudy's Wrestling Report, Episode 2. On this episode, I will be reviewing streaming video wrestling-wise. This will be a audio podcast, ongoing series, random times putting up whenever I'm in the mood or in areas that deal with wrestling that I can record audio on. This will be the first one to kind of check levels, see how things go, see how I like it, ongoing and so on and so forth. A little background about myself. I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, basically. My parents were into wrestling, went to live shows all the time when they were together, before me, while she was pregnant with me, and when I was a baby. I've been into it religiously since I was about 9 years old, watching it every week, so on and so forth. I trained to be a wrestler when I was 16 with Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer. And when I was in school, Ken Shamrock was just leaving the school at the time. And I trained with Brett Wayne Sawyer. I trained Manny Fernandez, came by the school. Wrestled with him, wrestled with a bunch of guys there for about 8-10 months or so before the school closed down. Trained again about 6 years later with the great Paul DeMarco and Oliver John. And they taught me quite a bit. Great guys. So yeah, wrestling's always in my blood. Watch it every day. Do some kind of a deal with it every day. So it's a huge part of my life. So this is Rudy's Wrestling Report, Episode 2, the streaming edition. Basically, I had the WWE 24/7 on-demand cable many years ago when it first came out, probably like 2007 or something like that. Had it for a few years. Used to, back then, it was like every Wednesday at midnight they would update it. And I'd get home from work late and start recording everything, writing down lists of stuff, cataloging the different territories, building my collection of mid-Atlantic, world-class, this and that and stuff. It was good back then. They would release stuff once a week, and they would put up a good selection of things. And it was pretty good. Some of the air dates were wrong and such, but I started building a collection, did that for a few years. Then the network came out, and my brother and I got it on day one, but the rendering time was really bad then, and it was kept loading and buffering and all that stuff, so it was kind of a drag, but we still had it, soldiered through it. But recently, anyway, so then I went back to DSL and took a break from the network and didn't really have a need to watch it because I couldn't catalog it and didn't have Wi-Fi. I was just on DSL, so didn't really feel like I needed it. But recently I got Wi-Fi and had some connection problems here at the house. Had a technician come out from AT&T and they fixed it. So now I have total streaming and figure out a way from HDMI to AV to capture things again. So now I'm able to catalog and build my collections back again. So, having been off the network for the last year, 2 years, something like that, a lot has came to the network in that time, including almost complete collections, drops of world-class championship wrestling, a lot more Mid-Atlantic, Mid-South, which my brother and I already have a full collection almost from previous tape collecting days, DVD collecting days, through iOffer and eBay and places like that, before the network really, and kind of like that, you know. which I prefer those versions because they're original aired versions with all the local promos and music and such, which the network dubs out. But we'll go over all that later. But in the meantime, before that, I was into the New Japan Pro Wrestling Network the last year and a half or so, and been watching those on my smartphone and on the computer and such. But now I have a way to capture and catalog, so I'm very happy about that. So I'm going to start doing that. The first thing I'm going to talk about on the streaming edition is the layout of the various platforms, the WWE Network and the New Japan World Network. I've noticed that the layouts on each one are quite different. Let's start with New Japan World first. New Japan World on the PC, on your personal computer or laptop, the layout's really good. I like how you could scroll really easy. Things are cataloged well, broken down well. There's a good translation, automatic on that, and really easy to navigate. And the streaming is really good. No delays and such. On the smartphone, same thing, of course, but smaller. It's a little harder to navigate, but still about the same thing. Which brings me to the Fire Stick. The platform on the Fire Stick is very inferior to the other two. The live and current shows are pretty easy to find and easy to navigate, but if you want to go back to previous things, like say they break things down by decades, but on the computer version and the smartphone version, you could go by each year in a decade, but on this it's just the complete decade. So if I want to watch something from, say, anything from 2010 to 2018, I have to start at 18 and work my way back through each match, each card, and the individual matches broken down from the cards and any other content in between. So it takes quite a while to scroll all the way down. The pause option on it's good, but it doesn't show you where you're at. It has no time stamps, nothing on it. So it's a little bit of a drag. So it's all right to just, I guess, watch it for if you have a navigation in mind ahead of time, then it's definitely worth it for that, and to watch the current things. But if you want to start going back cataloging things, it's a little bit difficult, but it's manageable. On the WWE Network, the platform on the personal computer laptop is really good. Things are broken down well, scrolls top to bottom, compared to on Fire Stick and Roku, where it scrolls left to right, which is okay. But yeah, I prefer the computer version because you see more options. The layout's better, but it's not bad on Fire Stick and Roku. There's still no way to stop auto jump to the next episode, which is kind of a drag. I went through all my settings, but I changed them on Fire Stick, but WWE Network doesn't have that option to skip next show. So anyways, that's not too bad, just a little picky thing. So yeah, basically checked out the network, started capturing some things. My first thing that I wanted to start with, I looked at World Class Championship Wrestling, and basically they got on there 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. 81 is basically just one episode, and they don't have it. 82, they have 46 of the 53 episodes. Only missing very few there, like 9 or 7. 83, they're only missing 3 episodes. They got 48 out of 51. 84, they're only missing 1 episode. They got 51 of 52. 85, they're missing about 4 episodes. They have 47 of 51. 1986, World Class Championship Wrestling has 52 of 53. They're only missing 1 episode. 87, only missing one episode as well, 51 of 52. 88, they're missing 10 episodes. They have 43 of 53. And 89, they had 31 episodes and none are posted. So that's a really good chunk of stuff there. So I decided to start with Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling 1981, as previously on the WWF 24/7 on-demand cable channel, they had shown a little November and some of December of 81, but nothing previous to that. So now, basically, on the network, they added September. They added September, some of October, and then pretty much November, December. So I went through and I binge watched the 11 episodes that are posted for 1981 Mid-Atlantic. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking, because 11 episodes, about 45 minutes approximately each episode, comparable to a Netflix series. So it was like I watched a season. So people binge watch seasons of Daredevil and Wild Wild Country and Defenders and all that. But yeah, I did Mid-Atlantic 1981. It was cool watching Mid-Atlantic 81 as so many people that you see later on in life getting their start there. It was really cool. Basically, what I'll talk about here briefly is some notes that I had observed and that I had written down watching these 11 episodes, and kind of a brief rundown of the whole 11 episodes. Not every match, just kind of going over some things. My first thing I'll talk about is the notes. Watching Ole Anderson cut a promo, the way he acted, the way he was looking at the camera, the way his body language was, I had an opinion that Kevin Steen, watched a lot of Ole growing up, because you can kind of see it on him. It really reminded me of him. Don Kernodle, I've always dug a lot. Watched him with Ivan Koloff, watched him with Sergeant Slaughter, watched him later on with Keith Larson, his brother, Rocky Kernodle, all that stuff. But yeah, man, Don Kernodle was like the man. He here in early 81, September 81, he had no derby. He was like in really good shape. He was a really underrated worker. Started off here as kind of a enhancement talent guy. Got in a few moves here and there and stuff. But yeah, he's no wasted motion. His gap between moves is very, very tight. He moved very in with things, always held on to things, never left space. His timing, his precision was really good, was really focused, was believable, and was really hard worker, and I always liked him. Sergeant Slaughter comes in September 81 after leaving the World Wrestling Federation, and Mid-Atlantic Sergeant Slaughter is awesome. He's like believable, he's tough, he's mean, he's good shape, and he's fucking puts the moves on dudes. On the September 12th episode, it was kind of cool because you have the first encounter of Ron Bass and Black Bart. Those two were married to each other a lot in their career as tag partners, adversaries, all through Mid-Atlantic and different areas. I think they even wrestled in WWE together against each other later on, like, in the 80s later. But yeah, here it's Ron Bass against Ricky Harris, and they're in opposite tag teams. And they work against each other. It's kind of cool. Yeah, and Ricky Harris in 81 was really good, too. He's in shape. Doesn't have a big belly yet. Looks like Bruiser Brody, actually. He's tall, got the hair, the beard, everything, and I was really impressed with his work. Piper in an episode is cool as hell. He wears a Satisfaction Guaranteed shirt, and is a good heel. Johnny Weaver, he is very funny on his promos. He has a promo with Paul Jones in one where, rest in peace, that he starts getting lost and starts talking about odd things, and then watching him work in the ring in a tag match against the Grappler, he locks in this arm lock and then instead of standing over the guy working it, he just like works his body to the ground and then sprawls his legs out and just like lays there on the mat. It's bizarre. Bad Leroy Brown comes in and is really awful. His ring mechanics are pretty bad. I was watching him in a tag match with Jake the Snake as his partner, and he like works the leg on the wrong side and like drops on it crooked, and really sloppy work, and does like 2 moves and just mostly jumps around, and terrible. Another thing too is toward the end they keep putting over this 1982 Cadillac. Sandy Scott comes out and talks about how he's trying to lure wrestlers to the Mid-Atlantic territory, about how what would get them to sign, and he keeps pushing this 1982 Cadillac in like November or September or October of 81. And it's funny, it's like they just keep pushing this 1982 Cadillac and how expensive it is, and each guy comes out and talks about the Cadillac. And it was funny, so I was thinking, so this was like December 81, the 1982 Cadillac tournament with Sandy Scott. And later, WWE, and it was a tournament, so later WWE in 85, about 3 years later or less, does the same thing as the Wrestling Classic. And instead of giving the Cadillac to a wrestler, which is probably a work, they had a drawing for the Rolls Royce and had the tournament. And that was Sandy Scott's brother that was booking that. So, and I don't know if how that works, George Scott. So, yeah, I wonder if they just basically cribbed that idea over from there, because they cribbed everything else over. And it was cool. There's on the 12/19/81 episode, the referee in a few of the matches, not Roughhouse Fargo, Sonny Fargo, he's in a bunch of them too. It's funny to see Roughhouse. But there's another referee, and he's wearing red boots, so he's the original Red Shoes of later New Japan fame. But yeah, this referee's wearing red wrestling boots, and I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, that's my notes of the 1981 Mid-Atlantic. I'll go over a few highlights of what to look for. The first episode on there is September 12th, 81. It's a really good episode. It's got Piper brings Abdul the Butcher, who debuts in Mid-Atlantic, and they go after Wahoo McDaniel. And Abby pulls out the foreign object and works over Wahoo. And the camera does this cool negative effect, solarization, to not show the blood. Speaking of Don Kernodles earlier, there's a good Don Kernodle and Scott McGee tag match against the Super Destroyer and the Grappler. You have Sergeant Slaughter's debut on this episode against Mike Davis. And then you have Abby in there against Ron Ritchie from Worldwide. You have the Ron Bass and Jay Youngblood against Ricky Harris and Ali Bay match, which is the first encounter of Ron Bass and Ricky Harris. There's that one, and then you have other interviews and such. The next episode, 9/19/81, is good because there's some good tag matches and such. But the thing that's cool is there's a Jake Roberts and Jim Nelson match, and Jake Roberts does an early version of the DDT. They don't call it the DDT. It's not a finisher. He just does it in the match and goes on to the next thing. And it's cool, he does it again later in another episode where he does the DDT and then does his finishing maneuver, the knee lift. And in later years, he would reverse that and do the knee lift and then short arm clothesline and then into the DDT. Let's see. So yeah, 9/19's good. There's some decent stuff on there. Nothing really to go home about. The 9/26 episode's good. Ron Bass is the TV champion at that time. You got that Grappler Super D match against Johnny Weaver and Ron Ritchie. That's that Johnny Weaver match. One of them I think I was talking about. Yeah, you have that Jake Roberts Bad Leroy Brown match where you can see his bad ring mechanics against Ricky Harris and Mean Mike Miller. Let's see. They're missing the 10/3 and the 10/10/81 episode, so it jumps over to 10/17. And it's funny, they have the Jimmy Valiant music video that they used to play, Boy from New York City, that would play in Memphis and in Mid-Atlantic, but it's dubbed over with their WWE dun 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 music. So Yeah, that's not too good. And then they have a match with Jimmy Valiant against Jim Nelson, Private Nelson, later on, which was Boris Zukov. Let's see, what else you have? You have Jay Youngblood against Roddy Piper. This is interesting. You have Mr. Pogo out here, calls himself Kabuki, goes against Charlie Fulton. And then the next episode, because they have 1 week missing on the 31st, he's out again, but now he's calling himself the Ninja. And he says, I'm not the Kabuki. So there must have been a complaint to have him change his name, not to be still in that gimmick, as there was already another Kabuki at that time in Georgia and World Class and so on and so forth. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So 1031, like I said before, that was the name change of the Ninja from Kabuki. You have a pretty good match with Ole Anderson and the Super D against Jake Roberts and Paul Jones, which is from Worldwide Wrestling. And you have a good match with Don Kernodle against Sergeant Slaughter on the 1031 episode. It's good back and forth match. Slaughter wins, but later on those two would team up and would do really good. Let's see. So the next episode is the 11/21/81 episode, as 11/7, 11/14 are missing. Okay, go through that. Looks pretty decent. Nothing really to write home about. There's a good main event with Jake the Snake and Ricky Steamboat against Super D and the Grappler. And so after that, they have 11/28 episode. You have Private Jim Nelson against Keith Larson, Blackjack Mulligan interviews. The main event is good. It's Roddy Piper teaming with Ole Anderson. They were teaming up quite a bit during this time against Tony Anthony, future Dirty White Boy, and Don Kernodle. Two enhancement talents that give them a good match. Let's see. 12/5/81 starts off with Sandy Scott doing the Cadillac 82 talk. Oh, nothing greater than a 1982 Cadillac. Anyway, putting over that Cadillac like it's the second coming of Christ. Let's see. You have Tony Russo, a couple Tony Russo matches coming up. Okay, so then on this 12/5 episode, it's funny. Another thing I forgot to mention, Bob Caudle has so many mistakes back in 81, and there's always a joke later on of him, but he calls two different guys Tim Horner, and one of them was Keith Larson, so it's funny. There's a Big John Studd wrestles, I think it's Mike Prater, but he calls him Tim Horner. But anyway, I think it's Mike Prater. And John Studd stiffs him pretty hard in the match, legit. Does the lean him back over the top ropes and drops the forearm hard on him 3 or 4 times and drops him on his head and stretches him and shit. It's pretty funny. I would recommend that. The 12/5/81 episode, the Big John Studd match. It's like the third match in. And then you have Jim Nelson against Keith Larson, who he calls Tim Horner. Second time Tim Horner's on there, supposedly. Jeff Sword, looks a little bit like Savage, against Jay Youngblood. Then you have Carl Fergie debuting. Pretty Boy Fergie against Todd Hamilton. And then Ray Stevens is in doing an interview, which is really cool. Stevens comes in, he tag teams with Ole Anderson later on. 12/12 episode begins with Sergeant Slaughter issues the $1,000 Cobra Clutch Challenge. He offers any guy $1,000 if they can break the Cobra Clutch. And he did that before in WWF and did the stuff with Patterson and that. And that's what led to their famous Alley Brawl and great series of matches. So yeah, he's bringing that here to the Mid-Atlantic region. You have, at the time now, from this time, from September to December, the Mid-Atlantic title had changed from Ivan Koloff to Ricky Steamboat, now to Roddy Piper. So Piper's the Mid-Atlantic champion. The TV champion was Ron Bass, and he lost it to Ivan Koloff. So now Ivan Koloff is the champion. And they had done between September and then Sergeant Slaughter, when he came in, they had a U.S. title that they introduced. And I don't know if they brought it over from Detroit or what the lineage is of that U.S. title, but Slaughter won it. So Slaughter's the U.S. champion. And then, anyway. So, you have... Okay, so basically that 12-12 episode's not too bad. Just mostly the highlight is the $1,000 Cobra Clutch Challenge. So the 12-19 episode, you have Jake the Snake Roberts and Blackjack Mulligan Jr. against Chris Markoff and Charlie Fulton. That's a good match. Blackjack Mulligan Jr., of course, future Barry Windham, looking good in here. Black hair, black mustache. Everybody in the crowd, all the women cheer for him. They keep calling him Barry, which is funny. They keep calling him Blackjack Mulligan Jr., even though the crowd knows he's Barry Windham. They keep calling him Barry. Ninja goes against Mike Davis, who I always thought looked like Jake the Snake later on. Terry Taylor comes in. They're pushing him like $1 million. They're calling him a rock star, and all the ladies love him, all that stuff. That's, of course, David Crockett going crazy. You have a good match, actually, on this one with Billy Robinson against Don Kernodle. Back and forth. Billy Robinson starts eating him up, but then Kernodle stands up and takes over a little bit, and they work together really well, and gives him some offense. And of course, in the end, Billy Robinson goes over. You have the Cobra Clutch Challenge with Tony Anthony. It's a funny one with him and Sergeant Slaughter. And then all of a sudden now they have the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions, they say, and it's Ox Baker and Pretty Boy Fergie, and they go up against Keith Larson and Jay Youngblood. So December 81, this is after Escape from New York. Ox Baker comes in with Carl Fergie, and this is odd because I don't know if Fergie came back over from Mid-South and they just put him here with this, or this is before the Georgia deal with Memphis, so this is interesting. And the last episode to round out 81 is the 12-26 episode. You have another tag match with Jake and Blackjack Mulligan Jr. They're pushing that tag team. And from this time, Jake had floated around. He had teamed with Ricky Steamboat for a while, and they put him with Paul Jones, and now he's with Blackjack Mulligan Jr. But yeah, he was floating, teaming with a lot of different guys. You have a match with Billy Robinson and Tony Anthony. It's a good match. Billy Robinson, I think, gives him a little too much offense for where Tony Anthony was in his career, but he works well with him. Ivan Koloff's on here fighting Larson. Tony Russo fights Terry Taylor. You have some good Ann Arbor, Michigan local promos with Ray Stevens and the Dean of Wrestling, Johnny Weaver, which is funny, with Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. Those two together are funny. They're talking about the women in Ann Arbor, and I would recommend watching that. Boogie's hella funny. Speaking of Boogie, that was another thing that I wanted to mention. Boogie has some really good gear in a couple of these matches. He has two different pairs of trunks. One of his pair of trunks say "Kiss My," and his other pair of trunks that he wears in a few of the matches say "Watch It," and they're both on his ass. And he has two different jackets. One is First Class Male, M-A-L-E, and another jacket he has is a Star is Born, and the star is actually just a star, not the word star. So yeah, A Star is Born. So that's Boogie. Yeah. What else is on here? Let's see. The Ann Arbor, Michigan promos, I had previously said. Vinny Valentino teams with Don Kernodle. They go against Ox Baker and Pretty Boy Fergie. And the last episode of Mid-Atlantic 81 ends with the Cobra Clutch Challenge. This time, drawn now, the name of the hat is Blackjack Mulligan Jr. So this is a pretty funny one because Sergeant Slaughter first goes up and tries to put it on real slow and stuff, and then he hits Barry Windham in the back of the head, and then everybody gets mad, and they say, "You're not supposed to hit him, you're just supposed to put the hold on." You go, okay, and he gets ready to put it on again, and he pulls his hair a little bit, and then locks it on, and it goes from there. But yeah, it's definitely funny. Slaughter's healing it up really well. So so it looks like we're about a 29-minute mark, which is pretty good for a first wrestling review report. So Tackle of Mid-Atlantic, 1981, 11 episodes. I say check it out. It's fun viewing. At less than 45 minutes an episode, you're looking at 9 hours and change, something like that, to watch it. I did it over about a day, broken up. over like 3 different sessions. So yeah, it's definitely fun. So yeah, so basically that's there. 82 now, I'm going to go through and start working on that. And after I watch, say, maybe 6 months of it or so, 4 months, come back, do another report, give you my update on it. And at that time, I'm also going to start probably working on the World Class Championship Wrestling, and also going through and doing some New Japan, going through and cataloging some previous shows that I had watched and enjoyed and now want to add to my collection. So yeah, that's my report. Next week, which will actually, yeah, from the time I'm recording this, in a little over a week's time, I'll be traveling to Las Vegas, Nevada for the Cauliflower Alley Club convention once a year. It's really awesome. It's always the end of April, beginning of May. I'll be seeing some friends from the 605 podcast, Kurt Brown, a.k.a. Vandal Drummond, Howard Baum. Buddha Khan was there last year, but he's really bad in the hospital right now, so I don't know if he'll make it this year. I don't know if he'll make it through even. We pray for Buddha Khan. Hope he's doing well. Hope he's doing better. Pistol Pete, hope he's doing well. He reported on Buddha, and I don't think he's going to make the convention this year. So, but yeah, so we'll have that. We'll have a bunch of other friends. We'll have Mike Lano will be there probably, and no, there'll be a lot of people. So, going to do the Cauliflower Alley Club. Shawn Michaels is getting awards this year. Harlem Heat, Steve Kern, Princess Victoria, Santana Garrett. There's Baron Von Raschke, Greg Valentine. So many people. There's like 11 or 12 people getting honored. Crowbar Press will be there. Be a lot of good wrestlers, authors, so on and so forth. I'll probably be recording maybe 1 or 2 shows there, possibly. We'll see who goes, see who's there, see if I can pull somebody away to record something, talking about wrestling of some kind. Because basically these Rudy Rasslin or Wrestling Report, Triple R, will always be about wrestling of some kind. First one we did was with Brennan Martin for Teeny, which was about Christine Jarrett. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And that's on the YouTube channel. That's a video one. And these will be audio, I think. I think that's a better way, easier to go through, knock them out. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you have any questions, please send them to me. Anything with wrestling, and I'll try to answer them for you or give you my opinion on it if you need it, or any questions you have. And hope you enjoy listening. My name is Jason Rudy, and you have listened to Rudy's Rasslin Report, Episode 2, the streaming edition, Mid-Atlantic 81. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to Rudy's Rasslin Report. We leave you till next time.